Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The Moore Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines. Available for download on all major digital platforms.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The Moore Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The Moore Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained. The comments and views expressed on The Moore Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The Moore Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online, you're now listening to the UK's only alternative late-night talk show, and I'm Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Francis Key. Now, on October the 9th, 2010, at the age of 86, Gloria Crystal Teddy, Key Francis's mother, passed away at her Florida home with her family by her side. 19 days later, her beautiful voice began to communicate with her eldest daughter Frances about the scope and wonder of her new perspective from the afterlife state. This remarkable collection of insights, written in less than a year and divided into 3 books, has astounded friends, family, and a growing circle of readers with its unique analogies, wit, depth of wisdom, and unusual outlook on the human experience. Teddy conveys that each soul is on the earth as a member of a spiritual team with specific missions in life. She reveals how various teams work through what appears to be individuals and how there's so much more than meets the eye to our relationships, environment, and impulses. Book 1, expressed in a tone both motherly and instructive, delivers messages about such intriguing concepts as spiritual DNA, activating the alternative, elimination through illumination, and the hodgepodge that is the earth. Francis Key, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
You know, I was just saying off camera there how much I really enjoy these type of interviews. And with yours, it's very special, very special. Now, just before we get into the story, just tell us a bit of background about yourself as well.
Well, I'll give you the background that pertains mostly to the book. My mother was and still is my spiritual teacher. She was not only my mother, but my spiritual teacher. We had a lifetime together of searching and miraculous experiences together. So it's not unlikely that there would be an after-death communication with my mother. I grew up here in Florida. My mother had a private school and daycare center, and I grew up with her there in her school and then worked with her in her school. She had an unusual ability with children who had difficulties with behavior and learning. And she also went into working with abused children. She was a runaway shelter mother. She did this kind of humanitarian work all her life. And I was by her side. It became kind of a mission that we did together. So my life has been involved with humanitarian work, with children. I'm a teacher, a retired teacher. And I am a musician, singer. I've produced and written a number of different songs, musicals, things of that nature, all of which were taught to me also by my mother. So when I speak of my life, I speak of her life because we lived and worked and did these things side by side.
Okay. And you was an only child?
No, I have a sister who's 12 years younger than me.
Okay. And had you ever looked into spirituality prior to this
Yes.
channeling in a sense?
A big part of our walk together, my mother's walk and my path, was the fact that she left traditional Catholicism in her 30s and began a search of her own. And this search took her to a number of different kinds of churches, philosophies. She was a very learned person and very sincere in her search. And she took me with her. We spent time in the Unitarian Church where we were able to explore and discuss all kinds of things. And then she discovered a church called the Universal Church of Ontology. Ontology meaning the science of all being. And there together we learned the basics of Eastern thought and metaphysics. We spent a good 10, 12 years with that group before we decided to leave, and continued our path together through meditation, prayer, for the rest of our lives. But we did indeed do a lot of exploration together of that nature.
Okay. And was there ever a time where she said that, if I can, I will come through?
Well, we said that kind of thing together all the time to each other. We had no particular plan. Now, as a young child at the age of 10, I began to do automatic writing at her guidance. And after some years of this, I'd say into my early teens, it frightened me. I wasn't prepared for the other kinds of things that would come with that. I had a lot of experiences of visions and dreams that at that age I wasn't sure what to do with. So I backed off from that and really kind of shut the door to those kinds of psychic experiences, which were very natural for me. And throughout my life, my mother would say to me, why don't you do that automatic writing again? You received such beautiful material. And I always said, I don't feel drawn to it. I'm still nervous about it. I don't want to go that route. And before she died, I kept telling her, Mother, please write a book. Write a book about your wisdom. And she said, oh, I've gotten too old. I don't want to do that. Well, after she died, and she communicated with me so clearly, I opened myself once again because I trusted the source. I wasn't afraid anymore. And she got her books written. She wasn't too old, and she wrote them from the other side.
Oh, absolutely she did. And how quickly from her passing did Mother start speaking to yourself?
It was 19 days after she died. My daughter had called me from New York to tell me that she was pregnant. And I was so delighted. I jumped on a plane. I had two daughters who lived in New York at the time to go see them. And it was on the plane ride there, as I looked out over those beautiful clouds and thinking of her, I just said, is there any distance to you, for you? It was something in my mind that I thought. And I heard her speak. She spoke very clearly. She had this beautiful Australian accent that is unmistakable. And was it in my mind? Was it audible? It feels like it was a mixture of the two, to be honest. And she spoke to me about distance. And then I continued in my mind, and then I took out a sheet of paper and started writing my questions and hearing her answers. And we went from some personal things into some more universal concepts. And I thought it was going to be during, the hour and a half plane ride, but what it turned out to be was months and months and months of intense communication and information about the other side, but more, not so much about the other side as more about our lives here. Our lives here, because it's wonderful to understand the other side and to comprehend what happens after death. But we are here, and we are in an amazing dimension. This earth is, she's stressed over and over, quite an opportunity. We chose to come here. Many wanted to come here and would be very grateful to have the opportunity that we have in being here. At this time in history in particular. So her message was loud and clear. We are here for a purpose, and to celebrate that, to celebrate our incarnation.
Absolutely. And how much trust did it take to really know that this was a voice that was a wise voice, a voice of love in a sense? How much trust did you give yourself to go through that process?
Honestly, it was so clearly her, and everything that was written was so much her style of speaking and her humor and her expression that I never had a doubt. I hesitated to tell some people. I started with one person in the family because, it was a lot for people to grasp. I had to deal more with other people's concerns and doubts than my own. But I knew instantaneously that it was my mother, just like you would know, your own mother's presence or voice. I wasn't afraid. I've never been afraid.
No, and it's also getting past that. What other people think as well, because when you do this kind of work, you've really got to let go of all ego, not to care what people think, and go beyond that.
Absolutely. But one thing I think that was undeniable for people to see was this brought a tremendous change into my life. And I think that you've probably heard this from many people that you've spoken to about this subject. But the connection with a being on the other side who is loving and light-filled is an exhilarating experience. And it transformed many things. It transformed my health for the several years that this process occurred, because it was several years of communication and writing. My health and my energy level was just, sky high. I needed very little sleep. I had no pain in my body, and I've had issues with my back and neck and things like that my whole life. Had physical therapy as a child. I really received a tremendous healing. I received an emotional healing. Issues of anger, unforgiveness, hurt vanished and have never returned. In the face of this kind of material, they simply cannot abide. It's like this light comes in and just they disintegrate in the heat, So it was noticeable to the people that know me and love me, and I think that helped them to understand that this experience was really quite profound and authentic.
Absolutely. And you talk about 7 years there as well of communication.
Several years.
Yes, several years of communication.
Yeah.
So basically you was balancing a work life with writing this book. So what I'm asking is, how much time did you put into the book to begin with?
Well, the first book, like I said, I had been taking care of my mother while she was sick. I wasn't working. I was caring for her. It began 19 days after she died. And for, I can't remember exactly, it might be a month to 6 weeks of intense writing, maybe a little less, intense writing while I was still not working. Book one was finished. And then when I did go back to work within a few months after that, it was a part-time job, and it didn't matter. My energy level was so high that I was able to write from the moment I opened my eyes when I came back from work and straight on into the late night. And book 2 came, book 3, and I have the material written for book 4. It's been written for a long time, but, well, it's another story. It just hasn't been the right time to release that book, but it will come soon.
Very interesting. Okay. I suppose it gave you a lot of, not closure, but it helped you to understand where Mum had gone, even though you had all this, knowledge in a sense of all the process that you've gone through prior to Mum's passing. This really gave you the peace, didn't it, in a sense, that Mum was okay and that life does continue.
Yes, it gave me tremendous peace, and it gave me tremendous strength and energy that I normally wouldn't have had, because I tend to be more on the frail side as far as my energy and health go. I can't say that it made me miss her less. Sometimes I felt like I could, at any instant, just step through some kind of veil and be there. I had many visions when I was asleep, and communication with her when I was asleep. And sometimes it was hard to leave those places that I met her in, and other beings. Her main message in these books is about the fact that we are all part of spiritual teams. And I encountered her team through visions. So, yes, it helped with grief, but at times the pull to stay in that kind of energy realm was really intense. And it was a balancing act to come out of it, to leave it.
So it sounds like you'd gone quite deep, and I suppose when you go that deep, it's a place of unconditional love, isn't it, in a sense? And that's very difficult to pull away from sometimes, and quite addictive.
Yes, and we're cautioned about that. We're cautioned to realize that as part of a spiritual team, we all take turns. Teammates take turns entering. I'll just use the Earth as my reference point, although there are many dimensions and many kind of places that we go. But we are the boots on the ground, and they are in the lookout tower. And at other times, we are in the lookout tower, and they are the boots on the ground. And we are in communication. We have a mission. We are working together. Her main statement that goes through all these books, and was so powerful to hear her say, is the words, "You are not alone. You are not even functioning as one person. Nobody is, for you are a member of a team, a spiritual team as close to you as breathing." She explains that there are times when teammates actually work with us, and I don't like to give the impression of being possessed or anything like that, any more than when you sit down at your computer and you let somebody else come sit next to you to help. You take over for a moment. I'm not able to figure this out, and they put their hands out and solve your problem. You're working in tandem, and we are not alone, and we're not functioning. Nobody is functioning as one being. We are so much more than just one being. We're members of teams. And in fact, she explains that only an aspect of our soul or our full identity, our full being, even comes here. The aspect that is most needed in this lifetime to do this particular task that I have come and you have come and we have all come to do. The greater part of our nature, other aspects of our being, remain on the other side, in complete communication with our team, and we are being fed information from them and from our own higher aspects. She says it's like when a student goes to college and say they're weak in math, so that in math they go to remedial classes, but they're strong in language, so they go to more advanced classes in language. These are different aspects of the same brain. So we bring in an aspect of our being into our lifetime that has a specific purpose. But the rest, just like the rest of the student's brain continues to do other things while this remedial part of the brain is working on something, the rest of our identity is in complete harmony and one with our team on the other side.
At any point when this information was coming through, were you in a sense nervous, or I don't know if that's the right word really, but maybe judgmental in a sense on the information coming through? That is this new information coming through, or has this been said before? Will this book be recognized in any sense?
I really didn't think about it very much. I simply wrote what I heard and what I was inspired to write. And for me, many of the analogies that were given were totally new. Now, I had not heard of, I had not studied about a lot of after-death, near-death experiences, for example. People drew all this to my attention after my mother died. I wasn't familiar with something called the Seth material, and since then people have drawn that to my attention and said that this reminds me of some of the Seth material. For me, these were electrifying concepts, and my job was simply to write them and to share them. And the way they were put were so unique and so different and so fresh. Even things I had heard of were explained in such a different way that I'd never heard her say, I'd never heard of myself, and I certainly had never come up with.
Yeah, and I think as well that when some information does come through that's validated from other people as well, it can, it's a bit like a science experiment. If it's true, it's going to repeat.
I guess so. And I think it comes through in a lot of different ways because people need to hear it in different ways.
Yes.
It's re-expressed. And to me, in these books in particular, the analogies are for me so fresh that they communicated the concepts really in a way that I think any reader, any seeker could understand them. Because sometimes when you read things and they're always said the same way, they don't penetrate you. You're hearing the same words or the same phrases, but when it's presented in a different way, your eyes open and you go, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
To me, that's what these books have done.
Yeah, and the right audience for those books will be the ones who need it as well.
It's magnetism. People discover what they need to discover. And at one point, there was a publisher who really wanted to publish these books. And once we got to a certain point of negotiation, she came to me and she said, I think they're too complex and they're too hard. I want you to write them in a simpler form. And I said, that is absolutely impossible because I didn't really write them. I don't have permission to change any of it. It has to go forth like it is. And if someone needs a simpler expression of something, they will find it. They will be magnetically drawn to find the book or other source that serves that need. And those who need the material presented in this manner will find it. So we agreed to disagree, and we let that go.
Well, at least you were true to yourself and obviously to your mother as well, because I'm sure she would not have wanted the text to be altered or changed in any way, except for maybe, grammatical errors or
Yeah,
such things. Yeah.
absolutely. No, I've been very true to it, and I have, I've shared it mostly on my website and through some of these interviews. I think I had told you in my letter to you that James von Prague, who's a well-known medium,
That's right.
uh, did feature them, the books, and had me teach a lesson through his online forum before he closed that down and started his new website. So the books have had some very, very good exposure, and I've told the team, these are your books, this is your project. You
That's
make
right.
it happen the way you want to make it
That's
happen.
right. That's right. Well, we're going to get into some of the teachings very shortly. And one thing you said earlier on in the interview, which is really important, is that this information is not delving too much into where we go or the truth of that, because I'm sure that truth is down to the individual, but really how can Mother bring through information that can make a difference in the now?
Yes. I mean, what good is any of it if we can't apply it?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're not here to escape. We're here to grow, to share our light, share the growth that we have, and to make a difference uh, on this planet. And we're very lucky that we have this opportunity. As
Yes.
hard as it may seem at times and as painful or confusing, it's really quite exciting. And she calls it an all hands on deck time in history. And she says this is one reason these books came through this way.
Well,
There is all hands on deck.
there's an interesting thing. All hands on deck. So they do care about the state of the planet, or do they have, well, not an agenda, but I suppose there's no real need of an outcome. But do you think we could be doing things a little bit easier?
I can't relate to the word easier, but
Less painful?
the there is just so much information and opportunity today for people to spiritually grow and evolve. And everything in these books is designed to make us think of ourselves in a collective way, not
Yeah.
so much the individual. We do come in as an expression, in an individual expression and personality and body and so forth. But we are not individuals, really. We are members of very vast teams. And even on Earth, we are functioning collectively. Everything that we improve within ourselves is absorbed collectively by the planet. So she stresses seeing the value of our lives. We think that we're just so small, or that our little impetus doesn't make so much of a difference. But what she describes is that the intent and the energy and the commitment and the sincerity, all these things that we put into our efforts in life, they combine with the same level of emotion and thought that another is putting forth. And they create something she calls vibrational spheres. So there are these enormous, think of them as bubbles, enormous vibrational spheres, big bubbles of compassion, of anger, of love, of kindness, of peace, of negativity. And what we do is we contribute to them, and we also draw upon them, and so does everybody else. So when we are overcome, say, with bliss, we go into a state of bliss through meditation, we are tapping into a vibrational sphere that eons of people have contributed to create that bliss. That's why it's such an intense experience. And the same thing with anger. People say, I don't know what came over me. this rage went over me that was so uncharacteristic, and I did this or said this terrible thing. Really, what fueled that powerful rage is tapping into a vibrational sphere of it. So the power of what we put forth cannot be emphasized.
Yeah.
And it frightens some people, but really, if you think of it as a tool, and you realize that you're combining your efforts with this huge collective of humanity, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's what we are here to do.
So, in a sense, be careful of our thoughts, and it's not a case of monitoring our thoughts. It's more of a case of coming from love with our thoughts.
It really is. You can't go into a frozen state of fear about every move you make or every thought you think. But if you prepare the heart, prepare the mind, and come from an intention of true goodwill and willingness to drop ego and release the individual and recognize your collective oneness with this sea of humanity and also of other beings on the other side, teammates. If you come from that place, then you can trust the things you do and say.
Right. Okay. So, so many good questions here.
I have brought the books, of course, and in book one, I mean, I made some. There's some things I marked that I thought I might read a little bit if you like. Because
Sure.
I'm just a person talking about the books.
Yes.
The books speak in their own way. They have a particular way of connecting to people.
Yeah.
That I, as an individual, may not be able to do. So, if you would like, I will read some.
Please.
Okay, this is an analogy that's given that I think is very helpful. You are never operating solo. On the contrary, you are a representative, as it were, of your team. And they are filtering information to you as you are filtering your impressions and activities back to them. This is a constant flow. It does not stop. Imagine a representative of a company being sent out to a conference. His head is full of facts and figures, goals and mile-high dreams. He has a mission to accomplish, and the hopes of the business are riding upon him. His supervisors and co-workers have prepared him well. He has weaknesses too, which both he and the others are aware of, and this has been taken into account when he is sent on assignment. Before and after the conference, he is in touch with the team. But when he stands up to deliver his message to the audience, it is up to him to be the strongest representative he can be. The words of the team echo in his mind, their faces before him. The notes they helped him prepare are in his hands. But what is more influential than anything else is the force of authenticity he brings to that presentation. And when he returns from the conference, goes back to his place of origin, he is filled with information about what was well received and what was not. And this enables the team to plan and regroup and plan anew. She has described at other places in the book that everything that we learn and everything that we grow into, when we return to the team, they are able to absorb. They are able to experience a life review with us and feel and live through us everything we lived, so that all lessons are vicariously absorbed and understood. We do this for them, they do this for us. And when we return to the team, the wisdom is collective. And this is part of what people, I think, when I heard about what happens in near-death experiences, I think this is part of what is happening, is that burst of knowing that people have, as if their mind is being downloaded with tremendous information, answers, universal knowledge, because they are tapping into the collective wisdom of their entire team.
That's very beautifully put, that is.
Yes, I agree. I think it's beautiful. In a chapter called Power of Thoughts and Memory Magnets, she talks about how we leave magnets in the earth. I mean, it's almost not physical magnets, but you might as well consider them physical magnets in what we go through in our lives. And then when we return, or perhaps we do not return, but our teammates return to the earth, they pick up where we left off in our work and in our process of experience. So this magnetism that we are placing in the earth will draw people back together, or teammates back together, or back to certain geographical places to complete certain things. There's a whole system, a magnet system of how the intersection of all these beings works. And she says the earth is filled with these vibratory memories. You have the bones and archaeological finds to prove it on a physical level, but there's just as much, if not more, invisible residual energy of past events lingering in the animals, the rocks, the rivers, the mountains, forests, seas, and so forth. These memories act as magnetic markers that draw our souls back to certain continents, places, people, and experiences. We instinctively know where we left our magnets. And as we begin living out our span of days, we fervently seek them without actually being aware of what is driving us to those particular places, pastimes, or people. But she also explains that in many cases it is our teammates that return and pick up where we left off. And this is such a beautiful concept to me, that we are laying the groundwork for the next wave of teammates. And when we came, we stood on their shoulders. We picked up where they left off. And it makes it all worth it.
Yeah.
To know that the legacy, the spiritual legacy, whatever spiritual legacy I can leave, will be built upon and will support these beloved teammates that come after me.
And would you say as well that the teammates are the same as our guardian angels? That's another word for it, perhaps, or our family on that's incarnated on this level. They could be our teammates as well.
Some could, and many are. You know, many people that we incarnate with are part of our team. But also we have brief interludes sometimes with teammates, because at times it's planned or magnetically we know it is time for certain teammates to come together, even for a brief encounter, because they're going to activate the spiritual DNA in one another. She describes how we have spiritual parents that created our souls. We have a spiritual mother and father, very literally, who created our individual soul. And we carry spiritual DNA from our parents. And just like a baby, a toddler, 2, 3, 4-year-old, things are activated and woken up at certain stages along the way. If a child is neglected or abused or doesn't receive the right food, things may not be activated properly. We know this. And so spiritually, we are sent all kinds of opportunities for things to wake up in us and come alive and turn on like a switch in our spiritual DNA. So you may have an encounter with somebody that could be seconds of looking in that person's eyes, or it could be you spent a year with that person or a day, and it electrified you and it woke you up at some level. So these are also our teammates.
Right, right. So, for example, our worst enemy could be our teammate in disguise.
Yes.
Wow.
Because what we consider an enemy and what we consider a person that has hurt us or betrayed us causes us to rely on our spiritual nature to pull up out of that pain, because that's the only thing that ever pulls us out of pain.
Yeah.
Our churning emotions, are not the answer. It is the light, the wisdom of the inner eyes that finally leads us out of that kind of cave of darkness. And
Yes.
how will we ever use it? How will we ever know how to do it if we don't have something to push against? She calls this earth the workout gym for the soul. We have all these experiences that we need to push our muscles against. She gives the analogy of swimmers who dive into water and swim with all their clothes on and their boots on, so that when they take off clothes and they wear their bathing suit and go into a race, they feel like they're flying. So it's a workout gym for the soul.
Yeah.
And these are opportunities.
Yeah. And no matter if someone's life seems very switched off in a sense to consider these subjects, it is so important that life that they're having, no matter if whatever free will's taken them, whether they've never contributed or helped anyone, or they're quite self-centered, or whatever it may be, it's still such an important life to be downloaded when that soul goes home.
Yes. And I feel moved to say something here because all of us have had great pain in our lives, and some of us much more than others. But there are two very healing things for me in these teachings. One is that when we have a realization, the lights come on about anything. Of course, our present moment lights up. Our future changes because the light takes us in a new direction. But the past is healed. The past is changed. It is literally changed. We think our mistakes cannot be changed. The past is the past. It happened. What can I do about it? And she said it's very hard for us to imagine how this works, but she describes it, and I want to read it because I can't do it justice without reading it.
Please.
And it's very helpful to people. Okay. She says, realizations are the transformational turning point for everything you are living. For in the moment of realization, everything in your vibratory field changes. Therefore, everything in your future changes. And although it sounds impossible to you in your current dimension, everything changes in your past as well. I want to find where she goes a little more into that. Okay. Many people have the idea that if they have a stain in their past, it is simply there forever. And all they can do is to live with it and strive to do better. This is a commonplace and logical assumption, but it is only logical upon the earth. Once you are no longer on the earth, you see that realizations have the power to reach back in time and reconfigure an event. You see that by changing the result of something, the vibration within the events that occurred to cause that result are retroactively changed as well. How can this be so, you ask? Time, space, future, and past do not exist except in your dimension. And they exist there only because you need them, so you may so clearly see principles in action. In a timeless state, where now is the only time, a spiritual change, which is authentically wrought, becomes the dominant vibration in relation to that situation and affects the entire chain of events, which are actually condensed into the now moment. An analogy for this can be found in your computer. When you choose a new font and you have the power to instantly highlight and change the font of all the words you have typed in the past that relate to that specific document. Your new perception of a font has transformed the entire thing in an instant. Or imagine a frozen stream of ice. If you heat the mouth of a stream with an intense enough instrument, the ice will begin to melt all the way back, changing the ice into free-flowing water, transforming the rigidly conditioned past through the power of a new condition in the present. And there's a lot more about that. So this is very healing, I believe, and It's been very healing to me.
Yeah.
Because, there's all these strands of possibilities. Like right now, we have a million possibilities in front of us. We can turn the computer off. We can start talking about something else. We can start laughing. I mean, the list is endless of what we could choose to do right now, but we're choosing this. So we have this vast stream of possibilities, and they're all at different levels. And when a possibility is at this level, and then you have a realization that changes your perception, and your now is at a new level, and your future is at a new level because of the new realization, what you do is you tap into the other possibility that was possible at that level in the past, because none of it is lined up anymore. It's actually on the other side, stacked on top of each other, which makes everything simultaneous.
That's almost like you've started another parallel life somewhere, in a sense.
You enter a completely different life, and if it can happen in this lifetime. Of course, you may mentally remember the other possibility.
That's what I was going to say. You still remember the others.
But your realization has taken you into this new stream where this other possibility occurred. And actually that event, a different event happened in the past once you link up to it. I found that extremely healing, extremely comforting. And it's become real for me. It isn't just so abstract. At first it was so abstract. You see, book one has all these kernels of ideas that I really didn't, I thought that I got them when I wrote them. But until the other books came, and by the way, with the other books, because I had opened up to my mother and her team, other teammates were able to communicate with me. And so the other books take on, there's a tone of my mother in some of the chapters, but then you have scientific sounding information, you have different styles of writing, because different teammates were brought in to give this other information. And so all these seeds and kernels of truth that were in book one are expanded upon greatly in these other books.
Right. So,
book four just takes you completely beyond it. There's a whole chapter called Beyond the Team, so it really is designed to take you out of the individual to the team, and then further and further and further into the collective mind.
Incredible stuff. Okay, now this is really, really fascinating stuff. Um, what if someone's life, for example, situation is they want a stable income, they want stability in their life, and they've just never found it. You know, some of the more mundane things in life, for example.
You know, I wish I could find the line in this book, but it says somewhere that there's been too much emphasis put on uh, manifesting certain physical changes in people's lives. That is only the tip of the iceberg. That is like, uh, she urges us to go beyond that, to come from intent and to come from awareness and not be so attached to certain manifestations.
Right, right.
Once because her background was Catholic, she refers to biblical phrases all the time, and she says, "Seek first the kingdom of God, and all else will be added unto you." And don't be so attached to what the all else is. Don't define it. We really limit ourselves, I think, once we start saying, I need this, and I need this, and I need this.
I know what you're saying. You're saying, I think, I hope you're saying, if you do what you love to do, follow your gut feeling on that love of what you would truly want to contribute towards this planet, in a sense, whatever that may be, then everything else will come.
Yes, and be willing to do the other things that may come along in transition that become necessary before some of those visions are reached.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have more time, I'll share with you my personal experience of that.
No, go ahead, please.
It might take up too much time.
Well, just try to be as brief as you can.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll try to make it short. When my mother passed, the property that she lived on and that I had lived with her, which is this heavenly 2-acre wooded glorious place, fell into some financial trouble that involved banks, IRS, etc. Now, I was told clearly while this was being written that I was to keep this property, that it would be a sanctuary, and that's all I was told. Well, everything imaginable went wrong on that property. I was hounded by incredible amounts of harassment from legal sides that threatened to take this property. And I had no money to save it. The roof in one of the buildings caved in, and literally gigantic holes opened up in the ceiling, and water and stuff flowed into the house. So it was almost like in a condemned state. This went on she died now for over 4 years ago. This has been going on for quite some time. So many people would come out there and they would say, what are you going to do? What's going on here? And I would say, I just keep doing what I've been told to do. And I've been told that this place will be saved and that it will be used as a spiritual haven. And I just believe it will. So it was easy for me to believe it because I was told so clearly. Now, it isn't always easy for people to do this because they don't always have experiences that are so clear to them. But somebody came along who decided he wanted to buy this house and he was going to flip it. That means, in the US, it means to fix it up and sell it. And I had to sell it because it was in foreclosure to this person. And he would come out there and look at it, and I'd talk to him. And I told him one day, I said, God told me that I was to have this property and do this with it. And I would like to know if there's a way I can have it back. And he looked at me in amazement, who asks that? And do you know, he came to me and he said, I want to let you have it back I said, well, I can't buy it. I have no money. I can't go to a bank. And he said, I'll let you buy it for exactly what I paid for it with no interest. No interest.
Wow.
So I 15-year loan on this property, no interest, to pay it back in very small payments to this man. And right after that, it's in need of tremendous repairs. Right after that, a nonprofit organization contacted me because this is in a very remote area, and they asked me if they did the repairs on this house. They came and looked at it. If they did the repairs on the house, would I let them have 6 months free rent, and then they'll start their nonprofit. And they wanted, anyway, it was all as like a storybook. And in a few years, the nonprofit will have finished their work there, and I will receive this building back, and the place is preserved. And the second building I own and live in, and I'm already making that side into a sanctuary. I have a big angel garden full of angel statues. So this was done. This was not done by me, and I didn't orchestrate it, and I didn't really. I spoke my truth to everybody I met about it, but it was done. It was done because it needed to be done. But I have to say, I had completely released all attachment to it happening. I believed it should happen, but if it didn't happen, I was willing to let that happen because I knew that I had done my utmost and that I was coming from a pure place of intention. So she really says, seek first the kingdom of God. Seek the state of mind and heart that you are led to do. And so much of it is a release of ego, and so much of it is compassion for others and seeing in every other person yourself, your teammates, and even that this person is you can go as far as to say, that is me.
Yeah.
That is literally me in another life, past or future. We're all mirrors for each other.
Yes. That's just an incredible story, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
you listen to that voice, and it was right.
It was right. It was right. And it's also told me there's water on the property that will be healing. So I'm looking for a dowser or whatever those people are called that can come out.
That's
and
right.
find water.
That's right. That's right. And yeah. I mean, thank you for sharing that story, because that will give hope to people that they're looking for. And you could you could embrace that into so many areas of your life as well. Relationships and so forth. Do you think as well that we all come here with a soul contract in a sense?
Yes. The contract is with the team, and it's really with ourselves.
Right.
You know, we have we're here to excavate. We're like miners to excavate the jewels in the cave, and that's what we take back, and that's what we give to our team. We don't take the hurt and the pain and the ugliness. We brush it off like a miner brushes off his clothes, and we take the jewels. And it's the wisdom. It's the wisdom and the compassion. The compassion. We are here to learn compassion. I think I have marked something to read about that, which I'll read. It's a brief thing. I think it's good to hear. The earth is a wherein compassion is the saving grace of humanity. You have entered this particular dimension to develop compassion and learn how to consistently express this compassion even in times of great difficulty. While there, you will also stumble into errors that need to be forgiven by others, thereby providing them with the opportunity to exercise compassion. You are all mirrors for each other. And just as we dislike mirrors that do not present us in the best light, we tend to reject our fellow human mirrors when they do so as well. Therefore, forgive everyone everything instantly. This is the purest commandment. If you do not forgive instantly, you are simply putting off what will have to be done later. And in the meantime, you are radiating the energy of non-forgiveness out into the ether, where it will quickly find other vibrations of non-forgiveness to bond with and multiply. She says, if you find yourself in a state of condemnation or anger at someone, begin to pray for that person or situation. You cannot hate someone for whom you pray. Allow the words, there but for the grace of God, go I, to become your touchstone. Are you kind, disciplined, and gentle? You may not have always been this way. Are you talented, giving, and caring? There was a lifetime that you were the opposite, and a wise one looked past your exterior, recognized the light buried in your heart, and awakened it.
And how do you apply that, though, to someone who's gone through an abusive childhood, someone in the family who's had someone murdered, who got a cold blood, all these horrible things? I mean, it's a very
That's always
difficult.
the big question, isn't it? That's always the big question. You know, because in my own experience, I've had just those things occur. Been very close to children and people who were molested and abused, and very close to someone who was murdered. I have learned to give those dear souls that we love, that we lost, that we hurt for, to give them to God, whatever your concept of God is, and to release my need to know why those scales had to be balanced that way. There's a surrender in that, because we don't have all the answers. We can't see how all the energies intersect and all the patterns work right here. And we have a lot of those kinds of incidences all over the world that we're all witnessing. I don't want to put any energy into those kind of vibrational spheres. There are enough people putting energy into revenge or judgment and hatred and condemnation. So I advise people, when those waves of emotion come in that direction, to just say, I refuse to contribute to those emotions, and to shift those emotions over to faith.
Yeah, I mean, these are different. I mean, if we just look at ISIS, for example, I mean, are these souls that have come purposefully to show these mirrors so that we know who we're not, in a sense? That's, I mean, can we ignore that, or if we try to understand it from a different perspective, does it make more sense, a spiritual perspective, in a sense?
The only thing that I truly know is that those individuals in organizations like that, they are actually unaware of how they have tapped into this vibrational sphere of rage that has been contributed to through countless eons of time, countless incarnations, and what may have started out as some kind of zeal or passion in them as a seed has become a tidal wave that they've really become overpowered by, a tidal wave, because they are connected to this kind of vibrational sphere that is enormous and huge and powerful. What we have to remember is we have all contributed to these spheres. I have had in my own lifetime outbursts of anger that that I know have gone into those spheres. And so part of whatever rage we have experienced ourselves or in other lifetimes is now flowing into these individuals who are sort of held captive by it. So in that sense, when I look at those people, I try to acknowledge my own responsibility of contribution somewhere along the line, even if it's like looking at a sea of litter and knowing, well, I did some of that. Maybe I don't litter now, but yes, in my lifetime I've littered. And how many lifetimes did I litter? How many of those bottles floating are from the past, you know? So just feeling some part of this collective mind helps me not to be not to go into that state of you know, wanting to revenge upon those people, and understanding that they are swept up in something bigger than themselves. There's a chapter on suicide that talks about that often people are stunned that they even committed suicide once they come to the other side, but then they realize they tapped into not only their own despair, but the despair of a vibrational collective sphere that overwhelmed them. And it's important to remember that with all these intense things that people do and have happen to them.
Yeah, because it's not coming from self-love or love of others, a lot of these acts.
Lost. They're lost in a sea of darkness.
But do you think, though, that opposites on this planet allow the soul to have the experience it needs? So in a sense, it's kind of like a catch-22, where the spiritual side wouldn't want, in a sense, there not to be opposites, yet it's a natural effect that opposites have to be here for souls to have experience.
Yes, and when you think about it, every phase of history has had some manifestation of this very same thing. It changes form because everything is here at the same time. The earth is a very good place to understand how everything happens simultaneously. Right now it's night somewhere, right now it's day, right now it's morning, right now it's afternoon, right now someone's dying, right now someone's being born, all at the same instant. And we have the saints next to the most violent and you know, cruel of people right here at the same time. We have the Mother Teresas and we have, I don't know, the Hitlers, you know, all here together.
Yeah.
Everything is here. Everything is here. And so what are we left with except choosing what we are going to align ourselves with, because it's a smorgasbord. We can align ourselves with any of it in any given moment. It's made available to us.
Yes.
For that purpose.
Could you use the word truth, that we're aligning with what we feel is true to us?
I think that's our goal. We're constantly trying to lift up and align with the highest truth, the highest choice of the moment. But we go through phases where we do not align with what is true to us for the moment. I know in my own life, I have had a vision of truth, an ideal that I wasn't able or I did not, or perhaps chose not to express at that time. Sometimes we simply don't know, and sometimes we know and choose not to act on what we know to be true.
Yeah, yeah. Because, I mean, this is a complicated one, isn't it? Because we've got complete free will to choose our truth. And you know, I think if we all knew that life continued, it would be a very different truth for us all at the same time. But we're almost born here with a veil where we've forgotten who we are, and we're trying to remember, well, is there more than this? If so, how does it implicate on us? Well, no, most people say there's not more than this. This is all there is. but you know, it's almost like we're born with different ways of being, different ways of some have more of a veil, some have less. It's almost, it depends in a sense what that soul's come here to learn, would you say?
Well, the book describes points of consciousness, and some people call it levels of consciousness, but that even what looks like, for lack of a better word, a lower level of consciousness or a smaller light is really just as glorious of a light as the highest guru could possibly be. It's just that the light is behind a filter and there's only a pinhole, so we're only seeing a tiny dot of that light. And the analogy is given of a Christmas tree in the book, where you have tiny little lights and then you have these large lights. But they all combine to make the beauty of the tree. And in these points of consciousness, we're all standing on each other's shoulders. The lower levels of consciousness are supporting the levels above it. And as each one rises up, it pushes the rest of us up. So everyone has value. Everyone has value. And it's hard to understand how and why, but I don't feel like I'm doing it justice the way it's described, but there's great reverence given to every level of consciousness.
You are. This is very, deep in a sense, but also simple, because it feels so true to me what you're saying, and it's my truth as well. So no, and others, and the audience watching this as well. It's okay. Well, if there's something you want to read just there, please go ahead and read it. Yeah.
Okay. As I speak of this scope of vision, I am stirred to remind you that this dimension I am in is not more desirable or better than the one you are living in. These various environments that our souls enter are just that. They are environments. Consciousness is the only reality, and it is not dependent upon any location of the soul. You are exploring the earth for a limited time, much as a sailor goes forth for a while to see what lies in distant lands. That exploration does not define the totality of who that sailor is. It is only one of the many temporary experiences in life that he has chosen. The earth is your current land of exploration, and so it is a most wonderful school designed to teach you how to exert your true essence while operating in a field of distractions and a wide variety of vibrations. It's sort of like it would be easy to remain in a state of bliss and oneness. However, when you enter this big field of distractions and wide variety of vibrations, it really develops in you a new power to be able to consistently radiate your light in the midst of it all. Therefore, I want so much to instill in you the realization that the earth is an incredible, rare, and exciting dimension established specifically for the development of spiritual stability, wisdom, compassion, and creativity. Your planet is a treasure, a place to be appreciated, protected, and used for the highest good. This is a large part of the purpose behind this message, to foster within you a powerful awareness of the presence of your team and to teach you of the wonder of your now and the marvelous opportunities for advancement that the earth offers you. You are blessed to have a body to use as a vehicle for discovery. blessed to have access to the immense amount of information and wisdom that is so freely shared in the world today. May you be comforted and encouraged by this description of where I am, but more importantly, may you be empowered right where you are, so you may learn to live abundantly in whatever dimension you may enter.
Yeah, yeah. Well said. And again, this all equates to happiness as well, being content with where you are, coming back to the present moment, knowing that everything right now in this moment, as me and you speak right now, everything is absolutely perfect. Even though if we let our thoughts conjure up too much, we're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow. How am I going to make time to do this? But we just come back to the present moment as well. It's just so important.
Well, there are principles at work. There are patterns and principles and systems at work. And we are truly just passing through. We are here for such a short time. Everything that we see, every person that we see every day, including most plants and animals, will all be gone within 100 years. Even the newest baby we're looking at. Of course, replaced by others. But if you walk around and you realize that everything you're seeing, the cars, many of the buildings, everything, is so temporary. I love the saying, and it's used in the book, do all you can, where you can, for who you can, while you can. There's really no reason to waste another minute.
No.
Because we want to take jewels back. We want to take wisdom back. We want to take our team, some blue ribbons back for our team,
But also laughter back. I mean, you want your life to be fun. I mean, I think sometimes we get, I've said this before in other interviews. I've met some wonderful spiritual people in my time, but I don't see them laugh so much. Or it's okay to have a joke. It's okay to have fun, and that's an important part to take as well. Because if you're going to have a life review, surely it'd be better to have a queue of people outside wanting to watch it rather than thinking, oh well, that could have been a bit happy. I could have had a bit more of a laugh there.
Yeah, and if you look at the things that keep us serious and bog us down or make us angry and sad and depressed, if you look at them, they're usually materialistic things. They're often ego things. So, seeking freedom from that attachment yields a lot of joy. My mother used to always say, don't take yourself so seriously. I mean, really. And the things that we get so worked up about, and the physical items that people go to pieces over, they're so temporary. They're literally dust in the wind. So, seek out the joy and laughter. And laughter induces the body, fills the body with those endorphins.
It definitely does.
Very similar to the bliss that you feel in meditation.
Yeah.
So you can't go wrong there.
No. Just be true to yourself with what you're doing, and that will lead you down the right path. That's as simple as that in some sense, even though it's probably a bit more complicated once you go deeper, but on its very basic level. So what would you say then for this first book? What would you say is the most important message?
Exactly what she opened up with. You are not alone. You are not even functioning as one person. Nobody is, for you are a member of a team. If you really think about that, you are not functioning as one person, and absorb the impact of that, it's the foundation. It's the foundation of the book.
Yeah. And of course, we've barely sort of scratched the surface on the book. I mean, the book contains a lot of fantastic information. And we've, there's links on the screen now as we speak to the book, and just links back to yourself as well, your website, Is that a place where people can get the book as well?
Yes, that's where you purchase the book, and all 3 books. Although book 2 right now I'm sold out. There'll be more printed, but it's theteambooks.com. Theteambooks with the S.com.
Well, both to your mother and yourself, Frances, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's always so wonderful to be able to talk about this material. I appreciate it.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook. Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.